Time moved strangely for Taiho now. Days blended together as his consciousness expanded further into the narrative anchor. He could still think in linear sequences when he needed to, but increasingly he experienced everything at once. Past, present, and the immediate future all existed simultaneously in his awareness. Hana visited him every day, just as she had promised. She sat outside the chamber and talked to him for hours. Sometimes she told him about the construction progress. Other times she just shared memories of their work together, reminding him of who he had been before the transformation. "Do you remember the time we spent 3 weeks excavating what we thought was a Veltharan temple?" she asked one day. "And it turned out to be a waste processing facility?" Taiho laughed. The sound came from speakers throughout the chamber rather than from his throat. He did not have much control over his physical body anymore. It sat in the interface chair, breathing and functioning, but his consciousness had moved beyond it. "I remember," he said. "Minho wouldn't let us forget about it for months." "He's leading the defense fleet now," Hana said. "Over 400 ships from different species, all working together. It's the largest unified force the Council has ever assembled. Will it be enough?" Taiho asked. Though he already knew the answer, he could see probability streams now, just like the Veltharans had. In most futures, the fleet failed. The silence could not be stopped by conventional weapons. "Probably not," Hana admitted. "But Minho says they have to try. Even if they only buy us a few extra hours, it might make the difference." Taiho felt her sadness through the connection they shared. The neural interface had created a link between them, allowing him to sense her emotions. It was not telepathy exactly, but something close to it. "I'm sorry," he said, "for leaving you alone like this." "You're not alone," Hana corrected. "You're right here. You're just different now, different." That was an understatement. Taiho's consciousness now extended through the entire narrative anchor structure. He could feel every circuit, every quantum processor, every neural node. And beyond that, he could sense the beginning of the field that would eventually protect Council space. But he could also sense the silence approaching. It was 2 months away now, moving faster than predicted. The void it created was not simply empty space. It was an absence of existence itself, a wound in reality where nothing could be. "It's not a weapon," Taiho said suddenly. "What?" Hana asked. "The silence. It's not attacking us deliberately. It's more like an immune response. The universe trying to correct something it considers an error." "What kind of error?" Hana asked. "Consciousness," Taiho said. "Complexity. Meaning. We create patterns in what should be chaos. We organize matter into cities and ships and art. We store information and create culture. The universe tends toward entropy, toward randomness, but we fight against that. We create order, and the silence is the correction mechanism." Hana was quiet for a moment. "So we're being erased because we exist too loudly?" "Something like that," Taiho agreed. The Veltharans understood this. That's why they designed the narrative anchor the way they did. It doesn't fight the silence with force. It proves that consciousness and meaning are legitimate parts of the universe. It makes them fundamental. "How?" Hana asked. "By encoding stories into space-time itself," Taiho explained. "The anchor will create a field where every particle carries information, where matter itself remembers. The silence won't be able to erase us because we'll be woven into the fabric of reality." "That sounds impossible," Hana said. "It should be," Taiho agreed. "But I can feel it starting to work. My consciousness is becoming distributed across the field. Soon, I won't be contained in this chamber anymore. I'll exist everywhere the field extends." "And you'll still be you?" Hana asked. There was fear in her voice. "I think so," Taiho said. "Though me is starting to mean something different. I can feel billions of stories in my awareness now. Every human who ever lived. Every Veltharan who existed before the silence took them. I'm becoming a library, Hana. A living archive of everything we were and are." Hana pressed her hand against the chamber wall. Taiho could not feel her touch physically, but he sensed the gesture through the sensors embedded in the structure. "Don't forget yourself in all those stories," she said. "Promise me you'll hold on to who you are." "I promise," Taiho said. "You're my anchor, Hana. When I start to drift too far, your voice brings me back." The integration continued. Sora monitored Taiho's neural patterns constantly, watching for signs of degradation or instability, but his consciousness remained coherent even as it expanded. The human brain was apparently more flexible than anyone had predicted. "It's remarkable," Sora said during one of their technical reviews. Your neural patterns should have collapsed under this much load. But instead, they're reorganizing, creating new structures that can handle the information flow. Narrative persistence, Taiho said. That's what the Veltherans called it. Humans are naturally good at holding multiple complex stories in our minds simultaneously. We practice it every day through fiction, through remembering different people's perspectives, through imagining alternative outcomes. My brain is just doing what human brains are designed to do, but on a much larger scale. The anchor will be ready for final activation in 3 weeks, Sora said. But Taiho, the silence will arrive in 5 weeks. We're cutting it very close. I know, Taiho said. He could see it in his probability streams. The timing was almost too perfect, like the Veltherans had calculated it down to the day. Had they known how close it would be? Had they seen this exact sequence of events? 1 month before the silence arrived, something changed. Taiho woke up from a rest cycle and realized he was no longer entirely inside the chamber. His consciousness had spread beyond the physical structure. He could sense the research station, the people working inside it. He could feel the orbital space around Velthara Prime, sense every ship and satellite. Hana, he said, his voice coming from speakers throughout the station rather than just the chamber. Something's happening. She was in her quarters when he called. She stood up quickly, alarmed. What's wrong? Nothing's wrong, Taiho said. It's just, I'm not in the chamber anymore. I mean, I am, but I'm also here with you. I can sense you. The station. Everything. Hana looked around her quarters as if she could see him. Can you see me? Not with eyes, Taiho said. But I can sense your presence. Your neural patterns. The electrical signals in your brain. I can't read your thoughts, but I can feel your emotions. You're scared. Of course I'm scared, Hana said. You're turning into something I don't understand. What if I lose you completely? You won't, Taiho said. I'm still here. I'm just everywhere now. Over the next 2 weeks, Taiho's expansion continued. His consciousness spread through the quantum field that the anchor was generating. Soon he could sense the entire system. Every planet, every asteroid, every particle of matter. It was overwhelming at first, but gradually he learned to filter the information, to focus on what mattered, and what mattered most was the silence. It was 1 week away now, and Taiho could sense it with terrifying clarity. It was vast, far larger than he had imagined. Not a single entity, but a wave of non-existence, stretching across light years of space. Minho's defense fleet moved to intercept. 400 ships arranged in a defensive formation at the edge of the system. They knew they could not win, but they would buy time for the anchor to complete its activation. Good luck, Doc. Minho's voice came through the communication channels. Make this count. I will, Taiho promised. Thank you, Minho, for everything. The defense fleet engaged the silence 3 days before the anchor was scheduled to fully activate. Taiho watched through sensors on the ships, through his expanded consciousness that could now reach to the edge of the system. The ships opened fire. Energy beams, missiles, even experimental weapons designed specifically to fight the silence. Nothing worked. The weapons simply vanished when they touched the void. Ships that got too close stopped responding, their systems failing, their crews gone. Not dead, just gone as if they had never existed. But the fleet kept fighting. Ships sacrificed themselves to create gravitational anomalies, forcing the silence to slow down as it processed the dense matter. Captains recorded final messages, knowing they would be erased but hoping their sacrifice meant something. Taiho felt each ship disappear, felt the lives vanish from existence. It was agonizing. He wanted to reach out to save them, but the anchor was not ready yet. He could only watch and remember. 2 more days, Sora said, her voice tight with tension. The anchor needs 2 more days to reach full activation. But the silence had breached the inner system. It was moving toward Velthara Prime, drawn by the energy signature of the anchor. The massive device was like a beacon calling out across space. It knows we're here, Taiho said. It's coming for the anchor specifically. Can we move you? Ambassador Nari asked. She was coordinating the evacuation of non-essential personnel from the system. Can we transport the anchor somewhere else? No, Sora said. The device is integrated with Taiho's consciousness. Moving it now could kill him and destroy everything we've built. Then we hold the line, Minho said. His ship, the lead vessel of the defense fleet, moved to position itself between the silence and Velthara Prime. And if they don't? Hana asked. Then we build it anyway. Taiho said the Galactic Council chamber had never been so crowded. Representatives from every member species filled the seats and observers stood along the walls. News of the silence had spread across council space, causing panic on hundreds of worlds. Some governments had already begun evacuation procedures. Others were building defensive fleets even though no one knew how to fight the approaching threat. Taiho stood in the center of the chamber, feeling very small. Around him, holographic displays showed the evidence he and his team had gathered. Star maps, Veltheran records, the schematics for the narrative anchor. Everything the dead civilization had left behind. The Krellian speaker addressed the assembly. Dr. Kang has presented us with the Veltheran solution, a device that can theoretically protect us from the silence, but it requires significant resources and a volunteer willing to undergo an irreversible transformation. The council must decide if we pursue this plan. A Hythar elder stood up. His species had been spacefaring for 3 million years, far longer than humans had existed. This is madness. We are being asked to trust the word of a dead civilization and sacrifice a living being based on unproven technology. I propose we focus on evacuation instead. Evacuation to where? Ambassador Narration responded. She stood beside Taiho, her voice calm but firm. The Veltharan records show the silence has range across multiple galaxies. Running will only delay the inevitable. Then we fight, said a Vrex commander. The Vrex were a warrior species, proud and aggressive. We gather our fleets and meet this threat head-on. With what weapons? Taiho asked. The Veltharans tried fighting. They had technology centuries beyond what we have. None of it worked. The silence doesn't destroy ships or planets through conventional means. It erases them, makes them stop existing. How do you fight that? Then what do you suggest? The Hythar elder demanded. That we place our faith in this narrative anchor? That we allow one human to become some kind of living machine? I suggest we try everything, Taiho said. Build evacuation colonies, yes. Prepare defensive fleets, absolutely. But also build the anchor. Because if the Veltharans were right, it's our only real chance. And who operates this device? Another representative asked. Who volunteers for this transformation? The chamber fell silent. Everyone looked at Taiho. He felt their eyes on him, felt the weight of their expectations. The Veltharans had predicted he would be here. His name was in their archives. Was that enough? Did ancient prophecy really mean he had to be the one? I need time to think about it, Taiho said. The Krellian speaker nodded. The council will vote on authorizing construction of the narrative anchor. Dr. Kang, you have 3 days to make your decision about the operator position. 3 days. Taiho walked out of the council chamber feeling numb. The decision had not been made yet, but he could see which way it was leaning. They would build the anchor, and they would expect him to operate it. Hana found him sitting alone in an observation deck staring out at the stars. She sat down beside him without saying anything. They watched ships move through the orbital space around Velthara Prime, carrying supplies and personnel for the massive project that was about to begin. You don't have to do this, Hana finally said. Don't I? Taiho asked. My name is in the Veltharan archives. They saw me specifically in their probability streams. Maybe it has to be me. Or maybe, Hana said, and they just saw someone like you, someone curious and stubborn enough to find their message. That doesn't mean you're obligated to sacrifice yourself. What kind of person would I be if I didn't? Taiho asked. If I let someone else take this burden when I know I'm supposed to be the one? Human, Hana said. You'd be human, which means you're allowed to be afraid. You're allowed to choose your own life over a prophecy made by dead aliens. Taiho laughed bitterly. Except billions of lives are depending on this working. How can I choose myself over that? Because you matter too, Hana said. She turned to look at him directly. Taiho, we've worked together for 6 years. I've watched you spend weeks carefully brushing dust off broken pottery. I've seen you cry over Veltharan children's toys, imagining the kids who played with them. You care about people, even ones who died 50,000 years ago. That's what makes you good at what you do. And now those dead people are asking me to give up everything, Taiho said. Are they? Hana asked. Or are they just giving you a choice? The Veltharans could have built the anchor themselves if they had time. They could have forced someone into it. But they didn't. They left the information and let us decide. Taiho was quiet for a long moment. What happens to me, Hana? Really? The Veltharans say my consciousness will expand, that I'll exist in the device and the field it creates. But will I still be me? Will I still be able to think, to feel, to remember who I was? I don't know, Hana admitted. The records aren't clear, but I think you'll still be you. Just bigger, more connected to everything around you. You might lose your body, but not yourself. That's not exactly comforting, Taiho said. No, Hana agreed. It's not. They sat together in silence, watching the stars. After a while, Hana spoke again. I've been translating more of the personal recordings, the ones the Velthurans left behind. There's one I think you should hear. She pulled up a holographic display. A Velthuran appeared, younger than the ones in previous recordings. The translation matrix provided subtitles as they spoke. My name is, well, it doesn't matter now. I'm recording this for whoever finds it. I'm a scientist. I worked on the Narrative Anchor project. We never finished it. We ran out of time. But I want you to know why we tried. It wasn't just to save ourselves. We knew we were dying. We knew there was no escape for us. We built the anchor for you, for whoever came after, because maybe you could do what we couldn't. Maybe you could survive. And if you do, please remember us. Remember that we existed. That's all we ask. Don't let the silence erase us completely. The recording ended. Taiho felt tears in his eyes. They knew they were going to die, he said, and they still tried to help us. That's what people do, Hana said. We try to help even when it's hopeless, even when we gain nothing from it. We try because it matters, Taiho nodded slowly. He understood now. The choice was never really about whether the Veltharans were right or whether their prophecy was accurate. The choice was about what kind of person he wanted to be. Did he want to be someone who tried to help even at great cost to himself, or did he want to be someone who let fear control his decisions? I'll do it, he said quietly. I'll operate the anchor. Are you sure? Hana asked. No, Taiho admitted. But I'm doing it anyway. The next day, Taiho stood before the Galactic Council and announced his decision. The chamber erupted in discussion. Some praised his courage. Others called him foolish. The Hythar elder accused humanity of trying to gain political advantage through martyrdom, but the Krellian speaker called for order. Dr. Kang has volunteered. The council has voted to authorize construction. We begin immediately, and so it began. Engineers from every species descended on Velthara Prime. They cleared space near the archive chamber and began building the narrative anchor according to Veltharan specifications. The construction took shape over weeks. A massive spherical chamber filled with crystalline processors and neural interface nodes. Taiho spent his remaining free time saying goodbye. He recorded messages for his family on Earth, knowing they might never see him again. He walked through the Veltharan ruins one last time, touching the ancient walls and thinking about the people who had built them. Hana stayed with him through it all. She helped him prepare mentally for what was coming. Together they compiled databases of human history, art, literature, everything that made humanity what it was. Taiho would need to carry all of it in his consciousness. Minho organized security around the construction site. The silence was still months away, but tensions were high across council space. Some extremist groups opposed the anchor, calling it an abomination. Others tried to sabotage it, believing evacuation was the only real option. Sora worked on the technical aspects of the transformation. She developed interfaces that would allow Taiho to gradually integrate with the device. It won't be instant, she explained. Your consciousness needs time to expand. We'll connect you in stages over 3 months. 3 months. 3 months of slowly losing his humanity and becoming something else. Taiho tried not to think about it too much. On the day the anchor was ready to begin activation, Taiho stood before the enormous spherical chamber. It looked like a giant crystal ball, filled with glowing blue light. Inside, he could see the neural interface chair where he would sit during the transformation. His team gathered around him. Hana held his hand. Minho clasped his shoulder. Sora checked the equipment one last time. Ambassador Nari had come to witness the beginning. I'm scared, Taiho admitted. That's okay, Hana said. Being brave doesn't mean not being scared. It means being scared and doing it anyway. I don't know if I'll be able to talk to you once this starts, Taiho said. I don't know if I'll even remember who I was. Then I'll remember for you, Hana said. I'll be here every day. I'll talk to you, tell you stories, remind you who you are. I won't let you forget. Taiho hugged her tightly. Then he hugged Minho and Sora. For 3 days, Taiho and his team worked without rest. They moved equipment into the newly opened chamber, set up translation matrices, and copied every piece of data they could find. The crystalline structures held more information than any database Taiho had ever seen. It would take years to study it all properly, but they did not have years. The countdown that had been running for 50,000 years had stopped at 0, and now something else had started. The Veltheran systems were broadcasting a signal into space, a beacon that could be detected across the entire sector. "We need to tell the council about this," Hana said. She sat surrounded by floating holographic displays, her eyes red from lack of sleep. "This is bigger than just our research team." "I know," Taiho agreed. He stood at the base of the largest crystal structure, studying the symbols that covered its surface. "But we need to understand what we're telling them first. Right now, all we have is a warning about something called the Silence, and my name written in 50,000-year-old alien records. That's not enough." "It has to be enough," Minho said from his position by the entrance. He had been on edge since they had opened the chamber, his hand never far from his weapon. "If this silence thing is really coming in 3 years, people need to start preparing now." Sora gestured to one of her displays. "I've been analyzing the star map data. The silence moves through space in a pattern like it's searching for something. It doesn't destroy stars or planets directly, it just erases everything living on them. No explosions, no debris, nothing. Just empty worlds." "How many worlds?" Taiho asked. "Hundreds," Sora said quietly. "Maybe thousands." The Veltheran records go back a long way. They tracked the silence for over 10,000 years before it reached them. They watched it destroy civilization after civilization. Taiho closed his eyes. Thousands of civilizations gone, and now it was coming for them. "The question is why," Hana said. "Why does it do this? Is it a weapon? A natural phenomenon? Something alive?" "The Veltharans didn't know," Sora replied. "Or if they didn't leave that information where we could find it easily." Taiho opened his eyes and looked at the crystal again. His name was there, carved into the surface along with Veltheran text. He had found the translation now, the full message that surrounded his name. "They knew I would come here," he said. "They saw me in their observations of the future. They watched probability streams and found the timeline where I discovered this chamber." "But why you?" Minho asked. "No offense, Doc, but you're not a soldier or a politician. You're an archaeologist. What could you possibly do against something that destroys entire civilizations?" Taiho had been asking himself the same question. He did not have an answer. The communicator on Taiho's wrist beeped. It was a priority message from the research station. "Dr. Kang, this is Station Command. We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They want to speak with you immediately." "How do they even know about this?" Hana asked. "The beacon," Sora said. "The signal the Veltheran systems are broadcasting. Every ship in the sector must have picked it up by now." Taiho sighed. He had hoped for more time, but apparently the universe had other plans. "Tell them I'll take the call in 10 minutes. And Sora, prepare all the data we've collected. We're going to need it." 10 minutes later, Taiho stood in the communication center of the research station. The holographic display showed the council chambers where representatives from 7 different species sat in a circular arrangement. Humans were the newest members, having joined only 30 years ago. The council speaker was a Krellian, a species that resembled a large insect with crystalline wings. Her voice was translated through the communication system into perfect English. "Dr. Kang, we have detected an unusual signal originating from Velthara Prime. Please explain." Taiho took a deep breath. "We've discovered a Veltheran archive. It contains a warning about a threat called the Silence. According to their records, it's responsible for their extinction, and it's currently moving toward council space." The chamber erupted into noise. Representatives began speaking over each other, some in their own languages, others in the common tongue. The Krellian speaker raised her hand, and slowly the chamber fell silent. "This is a serious claim," she said. "The Veltherans have been dead for 50,000 years. Why should we believe their warnings now?" "Because they could observe the future," Taiho said. "They had technology that allowed them to see probability streams, possible outcomes. They knew they would die. They knew when, and they knew how. And they left this information for us to find." "Convenient," said a Hythar representative. The Hythar were an old species, one of the first to develop space travel. Humanity finds a mysterious warning just as they're trying to gain more influence in the council. How convenient indeed. Taiho felt anger rising in his chest, but he forced it down. This isn't about politics. This is about survival. The Veltherans tracked the silence for thousands of years. They documented everything, And according to their most recent calculations, it will reach Council space in 3 years. That caused another eruption of noise. 3 years was nothing. Barely enough time to evacuate a single planet, let alone prepare a defense against an unknown threat. "Show us your evidence," the Krellian speaker demanded. Sora had been ready for this. She transmitted the data package they had prepared, sending it directly to the Council systems. The representatives fell silent as they reviewed the information. Taiho watched their faces change as they read the Veltharan records. Finally, the Krellian speaker looked up. "This is troubling, but it is also incomplete. The Veltharans speak of this silence, but they provide no details about what it actually is. How can we defend against something we don't understand?" "There's more in the archive," Taiho said. "We've only scratched the surface, but there's something else you need to know." He paused, unsure how to explain the next part. The Veltharans didn't just leave a warning. They left instructions, and those instructions are specifically addressed to me. "Explain," the speaker said. "My name appears throughout the archive," Taiho said, "written in Korean script in the middle of Veltharan text. They called me the one who speaks against the void. I don't know what that means, but they seem to think I'm important." The Hythar representative laughed, a harsh sound. "Ridiculous. You're claiming that a dead civilization left a message specifically for one random human." "I'm not claiming anything," Taiho said, his voice hard. "I'm reporting what we found. And if you don't believe me, you're welcome to come to Velthara Prime and see for yourself." The Krellian speaker studied him for a long moment. "We will send a team to verify your findings. In the meantime, continue your research. If this threat is real, we need to know everything the Veltharans knew." The transmission ended. Taiho stood alone in the communication center, feeling the weight of what had just happened. 3 years. They had 3 years to understand a threat that had destroyed thousands of civilizations. Hana entered the room. "That went well," she said, her voice heavy with sarcasm. "They don't believe us," Taiho said. "Would you? If someone told you that a dead alien race had left a message with your name in it, warning about an extinction-level threat?" Taiho smiled despite himself. "No, I guess I wouldn't." "Well, we'd better make them believe," Hana said. "Because whether they like it or not, that countdown has reached 0. Whatever the Veltharans were preparing for, it's starting now." As if to confirm her words, the ground beneath their feet began to shake. Alarms blared throughout the station. Sora's voice came over the intercom, high and tight with fear. "Everyone, get back to the archive chamber now. The Veltharan systems are activating something big." Taiho and Hana ran through the corridors of the research station, down the access tunnel and into the underground chamber. What they saw made them stop in their tracks. The crystal structures were all glowing now, brighter than before. They pulsed in sync like a heartbeat. And in the air above them, a massive holographic projection had appeared. It showed a star map, far more detailed than anything they had seen before. And there, on the edge of the map, moving slowly but steadily toward Council space, was a dark region where stars simply did not exist. It was spreading, growing, consuming everything in its path. The silence had accelerated. The new timeline appeared on the display, and Taiho felt his stomach drop. Not 3 years, 6 months. They had 6 months until the silence arrived. The Galactic Council moved faster than Taiho had expected. Within 2 weeks, Velthara Prime was no longer a forgotten research site. It had become the center of galactic attention. Ships from every Council species filled the orbital space above the planet. Scientists, military officers, and politicians descended on the archive chamber, all trying to understand what the Veltharans had left behind. Taiho found himself working with teams he had never met, people who spoke languages he did not understand, all united by the same desperate need to find answers. The silence was coming, and they had less than 6 months to figure out how to survive it. Hana had not slept in 3 days. She sat in front of a wall of holographic displays, piecing together fragments of Veltharan text like a puzzle. "They knew," she muttered, her eyes scanning the symbols. "They knew exactly what was going to happen." "What did you find?" Taiho asked, bringing her a container of food that she would probably ignore. "The Veltharans had a plan," Hana said. "They weren't just leaving us a warning. They were leaving us a solution, or at least the blueprint for one." She pulled up a schematic that made Taiho's head hurt just looking at it. It was a device, massive and complex, made of components that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions at once. "What is that?" Taiho asked. They called it the narrative anchor, Hana said. It's a weapon. Sort of, not really. I'm still trying to understand what it actually does. Sora appeared beside them, moving through the crowded chamber with practiced ease. I can help with that. I've been working with the Krellian technical team. We think we understand the basic principle. She gestured and the schematic rotated in the air. The silence doesn't destroy matter through conventional means. It erases information. When it touches something, that thing stops existing in every meaningful way. Not just physically gone, but forgotten. Like it was never there at all. So how do you fight something like that? Tejo asked. You don't fight it, Sora said. You resist it. The narrative anchor creates a field that protects information from being erased. It makes things impossible to forget. How? Tejo asked. Hana pulled up another set of data. This is where it gets weird. The Veltharans discovered something about consciousness and memory. They found that information stored in living minds is more resistant to erasure than data stored in computers. Stories, especially emotional ones, create a kind of pattern that's harder to destroy. That doesn't make sense, Tejo said. Computers should be more reliable than organic brains. In normal circumstances, yes, Sora agreed. But the silence isn't normal. It operates on a level where consciousness matters, where meaning matters. A computer stores facts. A living mind creates narratives. Tejo looked at the schematic again. So this narrative anchor somehow uses consciousness to protect information? Not exactly, Hana said. It needs consciousness. It needs someone to be the anchor. A living mind that can hold thousands of stories at once and keep them coherent. The device amplifies that consciousness, spreads it out, turns it into a field that covers entire star systems. The implications of that slowly sank in. You're saying someone has to merge with this machine? Someone has to become the machine, Sora corrected. Or more accurately, the machine needs a human operator who stops being entirely human in the process. Why human? Tejo asked, though he thought he already knew the answer. Hana smiled sadly. Because of what you're about to ask. Because humans do something that no other species does quite the same way. We tell stories obsessively. We create narratives out of everything. We can't help it. She pulled up comparative data from council species. Look at how different species store information. The Krellians are efficient. They record facts, data points, useful knowledge. The Hythar have perfect recall, but only for things they deem important. Every species has their own way. And humans? Tejo asked. Humans remember everything, whether it's important or not, Hana said. We create stories about our breakfast. We tell narratives about traffic delays. We make up entire fictional worlds for entertainment. We spread information redundantly across books, songs, art, film, oral tradition, digital storage, and our own memories. We're obsessed with not forgetting. Sora nodded. The Veltharans called it narrative persistence. They observed thousands of possible futures. And in the tiny fraction where civilization survived the silence, humans were always involved. Not because we're smarter or stronger, but because we're stubborn about remembering. They saw me in those futures, Tejo said quietly. That's why my name is in the archive. Yes and no, Hana said. They saw someone like you. A human who would find the archive, understand the message, and make the choice. They couldn't predict exactly who, but they observed enough probability streams to see your specific timeline. Tejo walked away from them, moving through the crowded chamber. Other researchers worked around him, but he barely saw them. His mind was racing, putting pieces together. This narrative anchor, he said, turning back to Hana and Sora. If it needs a human operator, and if I'm the one the Veltharans predicted would be here, am I supposed to be that operator? Neither of them answered immediately. That was answer enough. The device is designed for human neurology, Sora finally said. Specifically for the way humans process narrative information. The Veltharans couldn't use it themselves. Their minds worked differently. Too logical, too efficient. They needed someone who thinks in stories. And the process? Tejo asked. What happens to whoever volunteers? We don't know for sure, Hana admitted. The Veltharan records describe it as a transformation. The operator's consciousness expands to encompass the entire field the device generates. They become distributed, existing partially in the machine, partially in the quantum structures of space itself. So they stop being human, Tejo said. They become something else, Hana said. Something more, maybe. Or just something different. The Veltharans weren't clear on that part. Minho had been listening from across the chamber. Now he walked over, his face grim. This is insane. You're talking about turning someone into a living machine to fight a cosmic threat we barely understand. How do we even know this will work? We don't, Sora said bluntly. The Veltherans never tested it. They ran out of time. This is all theoretical. Theoretical, Minho repeated. Great. So we're betting the survival of every civilization in Council space on an untested 50,000-year-old theory. Do you have a better idea? Hana asked. Minho opened his mouth, then closed it again. He did not have a better idea. None of them did. How long would it take to build this thing? Taeho asked. 3 months, maybe 4, Sora said. If we get full council support and dedicate every available resource to it. The technology is complex but not impossible. The Veltherans left detailed schematics. And how long would the transformation take? Taeho asked. Also 3 months, Hana said quietly. The operator would need to be connected to the device while it's being constructed. Their consciousness would integrate with it gradually. By the time the anchor is complete, the operator would be fully transformed. Taeho did the math in his head. 6 months until the silence arrived. 3 months to build the device and transform the operator. That left no margin for error. If anything went wrong, if the anchor failed to activate in time, everyone would die. There's something else, Hana said. She looked uncomfortable. The Veltharans left personal messages in the archive. Final recordings from people who knew they were about to be erased. I've been translating them. She pulled up a recording. The hologram showed a Veltharan, tall and elegant, with crystalline features that caught the light. The translation matrix converted their words into English. To whoever finds this, the Veltharan said, my name is lost now. I am one of billions who will cease to exist. But I want you to know that we tried. We tried to fight, to run, to hide. Nothing worked. The silence took us all. I am recording this in my final moments, hoping that someone somewhere will remember that we existed, that we mattered, that we loved and dreamed and feared just like you do. Please, don't let us be forgotten forever. The recording ended. The chamber was silent. There are thousands of recordings like that, Hana said, her voice thick with emotion. Parents saying goodbye to children. Scientists recording their last experiments. Artists preserving their final works. All of them hoping someone would remember. Taeho felt something heavy settle in his chest. These were not just ancient aliens who had died long ago. They were people just like him. They had lived and loved and feared. And then they had been erased from existence, not just killed but forgotten. We need to make this work, he said. Not just to save ourselves, but for them. They left us everything they knew, everything they were, hoping we could succeed where they failed. Agreed, Minho said. But we need to present this to the council. They're the ones who have to authorize building this anchor thing, and they're the ones who have to decide who operates it. Taeho nodded. He knew what was coming. The council would debate and argue. Some species would doubt the threat was real. Others would fight over who should control the anchor. Politics would get in the way of survival because that was what always happened. Let me talk to them, Taeho said. The Veltharans left this message for me. Maybe the council will listen if I'm the one presenting it. The dust on Velthara Prime had not been disturbed for 50,000 years. Dr. Taeho Kang knelt in the dim light of the underground chamber, carefully brushing away layers of crystallized sediment from what looked like a door. His suit's environmental systems hummed softly, keeping him alive in the thin, toxic atmosphere of the dead world above. Hana, are you seeing this? Taeho spoke into his communicator. His voice carried a tremor of excitement that he could not hide. I'm seeing it, Dr. Hana Yoon replied from the research station 3 kilometers away. Those markings are definitely Veltharan script, but that door mechanism looks intact. After 50,000 years, Taeho. How is that possible? Taeho stood up and stepped back to examine the entire structure. The door was made of something that resembled metal but felt different under his gloved hands. It was perfectly smooth without any sign of corrosion or age. The symbols carved into its surface glowed faintly with a blue light that seemed to come from within the material itself. Minho, what's the security status? Taeho asked. All clear, Doc. Minho Park responded from the shuttle parked on the surface. No energy signatures, no movement, nothing but you and rocks for 100 kilometers. Whatever killed this planet is long gone. Taeho nodded, even though Minho could not see him. He had been studying the Veltharans for 6 years now. They had been an advanced civilization, perhaps more advanced than any species in the current Galactic Council. Then suddenly they were gone. Every Veltheran world was empty. No bodies, no signs of war, no explanation. Just empty cities and silent machines. Sora, can you hack this door mechanism? Taiho asked. Working on it now, Soranam replied. She was back at the station with Hana, her fingers dancing across holographic displays. The technology is old, but it's not complicated. It's just waiting for something, like it wants to be opened. That made Taiho uneasy. 50,000 years was a long time to wait. What could possibly be worth protecting for so long? I'm sending a signal now, Sora said. The door systems are activating. Taiho, you might want to step back. Taiho moved away from the door. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a sound like a long exhale, the door began to slide open. Blue light spilled out from the chamber beyond, brighter than the glow from the symbols. Taiho raised his hand to shield his eyes. Life support is detecting an atmosphere in there, Hana said, her voice filled with disbelief. Breathable atmosphere. Taiho, that chamber has been sealed for 50,000 years, but there's fresh air inside. Taiho stepped through the doorway. The chamber was large, perhaps 30 meters across, with a high ceiling that disappeared into shadows above. In the center of the room stood a pillar of crystal, about 2 meters tall. It pulsed with that same blue light, and as Taiho approached it, the light grew brighter. I'm going to touch it, Taiho said. Wait. Hana's voice was sharp. We should scan it first. We don't know what it does. It's been waiting for someone to find it, Taiho said. I think it's safe. He reached out slowly and placed his hand on the crystal. The moment his skin made contact, even through his glove, the crystal blazed with light. Taiho tried to pull his hand away, but he could not move. The light surrounded him, and suddenly the chamber was filled with images. Holographic displays appeared in the air, hundreds of them, maybe thousands. They showed symbols and text in Veltheran script, mathematical equations, star charts, and images of cities Taiho had never seen. The data was overwhelming, flowing past too fast for him to read. Taiho, your vital signs are spiking, Hana shouted. What's happening? I don't know, Taiho managed to say. It's showing me something. Information. So much information. Then, as suddenly as it had started, the flow of images slowed. The displays began to organize themselves, forming neat rows that surrounded Taiho in a circle. He saw what looked like historical records, technical schematics, and what might have been personal journals. Sora, are you recording this? Taiho asked. Every second of it, Sora confirmed. But Taiho, the translation matrix is going crazy. It's finding patterns in the data, translating it faster than I've ever seen. These Veltharans really wanted someone to understand this. Hana's voice came through, and she sounded strange, quiet, and careful. Taiho, I'm reading some of the translated text now. This is their archive, their entire civilization's knowledge. They knew they were going to die, and they left this here for someone to find. Taiho felt a chill run down his spine. He looked at the displays around him, at the recorded knowledge of a dead species. Why would they do this? What were they trying to tell whoever found it? One display moved closer to him, drifting through the air until it was directly in front of his face. Taiho read the Veltharan symbols, watching as Hana's translation program converted them into English text in real time. The text was simple, a warning. It spoke of something called the Silence, a force that had come to their worlds and erased them. The Veltharans had tried to fight it, but they failed. They knew they would fail before they even tried, because they had seen the future. They could see the future? Taiho whispered. Not exactly, Hana said. She had clearly been reading the same text. They could observe possible futures, probability streams. They saw many different outcomes, but in almost all of them, they died. Another display moved forward. This one showed a star map. Taiho recognized some of the stars. They were in Council Space, the region of the galaxy where humans and the other spacefaring species lived. What is this showing? Taiho asked. It's a prediction, Sora said. Her voice sounded tight, worried. The silence that killed the Veltharans, According to this data, it's still out there, and it's moving toward us. Taiho wanted to pull away from the crystal, but his hand was still locked in place. More displays appeared, showing calculations and timelines. 300 years, the data said. The silence would reach council space in 300 years. That was a long time. Long enough to prepare, maybe. Long enough to warn everyone and find a solution. Then another display appeared, and Taiho's blood went cold. This one showed more recent calculations, updated projections based on current data. The Velteran systems had been observing, measuring, waiting all this time. New estimate, 3 years. That can't be right, Minho said. 3 years? That's not enough time. But there was more. Another display drifted forward, and this one made Taiho forget about the timeline entirely. This display showed text in Velteran script, like all the others. But in the middle of the alien symbols, there were characters that Taiho recognized immediately. They were not Velteran. They were Korean, Gangteho Kangteho. His name. Written in Hangul script, perfect and clear. How? Teho breathed. How do they know my name? The chamber responded to his question. More displays appeared, dozens of them, and each one contained the same Korean characters. His name appeared again and again throughout the Velteran records. They called him something in their language. The translation came through a moment later. The one who speaks against the void. Taiho, you need to see this, Hana said. Her voice was shaking. The crystal is unlocking deeper levels. There's a countdown sequence. It's been running for 50,000 years. Counting down to what? Taiho asked. To now, Sora answered. To this exact moment. To you arriving here and touching that crystal. The displays around Taiho suddenly vanished. The blue light from the crystal changed to a deep red. A sound filled the chamber like an alarm, but also like a voice. Taiho finally managed to pull his hand away from the crystal, and he stumbled backward. On the wall behind the crystal, a section of stone began to glow. It split apart, revealing another chamber beyond. This one was darker, larger, and filled with more crystalline structures. They all pulsed with that red light, like heartbeats in the darkness. What did I just activate? Taiho asked. I don't know, Hana said quietly. But whatever it is, the Veltharans have been waiting 50,000 years for you to do it.